ahead and switch over to my PlayStation 4 that is on the very latest version, as well as my PlayStation 5, and let's just explore this together and look at some of the exploit games, maybe some of the Lua demos, and just see what all that this is affecting. So let's switch over to the PlayStation 4 now. Okay, so I'm over on a PlayStation 4 here that is on version 13.50. So if we go ahead and open up the PlayStation Store here, you can see that we are absolutely connected to PlayStation Network, and again, I am signed in. So what I thought I would want to do to begin with here is let's go to Okage Shadow King, and let's see if there is any sort of options on this one. So there is not a restore license or anything, but that was showing up on the PlayStation 5. And if we go into information here, now here there is not any sort of dates that we saw of when this will expire. But again, I will pop up on the screen here when I purchase these games. So for Okage Shadow King, which is one of the exploitable games, again, there isn't any option or anything that tells me when this expires. So let's go ahead and try Star Wars Racer Revenge. And then again, nothing on this screen. And if we go into information, you can see that this one does not have an expiration date on it. So let's go ahead now and let me try downloading a game that I already have from the PlayStation Store. Okay, so I just navigated out to a game that I had purchased digitally. So let's go ahead and download that and add that to this PlayStation 4. So we'll give that just a moment or two. Okay, and so Red Faction has finished downloading. So if we go to the options menu here and we go to information, we can see that this one does not have an expiration date as well. So that is very interesting that there is not an expiration date on this because I just downloaded it. Now, I think the next test would be heading back over to the PlayStation Store and just purchasing a new game outright and seeing if I can get the expiration screen to pop. Now, I thought that with the game that I purchased, I should go ahead and buy the US version of a game over here called Brock Natal Tale, a New Christmas Special. Now, this is the one that was in that original tweet that showed the expiration date. We can at least narrow it down if it's for Europe consoles only, or if it also affects NTSC. So let's go ahead and get started on purchasing this one. So I'm going to go ahead and add this one to my cart, and I am going to proceed to the checkout here. And at this point, let's go ahead and download it. Okay, so it is being downloaded. So we will know in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so now that has been installed, so let's go ahead and go to information. And there we go. This one we can see does have that start time and that end time. And now there is a remaining time of 29 days. So very interesting that this does happen on North American consoles as well. So I think now I would like to maybe try to download one more game that I bought a while back, and let's just double check and make sure that for pre-existing things that you've purchased, those are yours to keep forever, and that this is only limited to brand new games. Okay, so I'm on Outlast here, so I'm going to go ahead and download that one. And we will see if once this gets installed, if this one also has that expiration date that we're seeing over here with Brooke. Okay, so Outlast has finished. So let's go down to information here. And yeah, this one does not have an expiration date at all. So it pretty much looks like only new games purchased from the PlayStation Store is affected by this. At least that is what is showing over here on my PlayStation 4. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and let's switch over to the PlayStation 5 and take a look at it there. Okay, so I'm over on my PlayStation 5 here, and this one is running 13.20, which I thought would be a good version for us to take a look at. As you can see, it is connected to the PlayStation Store, and I am obviously signed in to the PlayStation Network. So the very first thing that I think I'd want to do here is that let's go ahead and take one of my older games that I have installed that is also tied to a hack, which is going to be Okage Shadow King. So if I press the options button here, right there you can see there is an option that says restore license. Now again, this is on a 13.20 PlayStation 5. Now if I go ahead and go down to information, you will notice here that it does not have that same sort of information that it had on the PlayStation 4 of when it was going to expire. That is absolutely all that it states there. Now, let's also go ahead and take a game that I recently purchased. So let's go over to Star Wars Racer Revenge here. And again, if I go to options, you can see that right there, again, I have the option to restore the license. So again, I can go into information and I can see that this one doesn't state anything, but absolutely these are going to expire after 30 days from now. Now, you may be thinking that this was just targeting some of the PlayStation 4 games that had exploits tied to them. So Star Wars Racer Revenge, as well as Okage Shadow King, right over here, had exploits tied to them, but I found that it is pretty much any PlayStation 4 game. So if we come over here to Red Faction, which I purchased a while back, right there we go. We can see restore license. And again, if we go into information, there is no sort of information on when it expires. Now, this is pretty much across the board. So if I take another game that I just re-downloaded that I purchased called Sola, and I go right here, this one also states restore license. And so if you're wondering what happens when you click on that, it just says that it will restore the license, and this one should be totally fine since I just downloaded it. But license restored, and again, there is nothing right here that indicates when this one is going to expire again. So now you may be wondering, what about those Lua games, or what about Lua demos? And well, I downloaded a bunch of those prior, and if I go right here and I scroll down, you'll see that on these demos, I do not have the restore license. I can just go right here to information, and I can see that. Let's try another one. Yep, there is no restore license on these demos at all. So that is all three of the demos that I installed, and there is no license prompt. But again, coming back to a PlayStation 4 game with Star Wars Racer Revenge, you can see that this one does have the restore license on it. Now, one thing to note is that we have only been talking about PlayStation 4 games, but PlayStation 5 digital games, if we go to those, also have a restore license option. Now, I'm wanting to say that it always had it, but again, I cannot recall. But if we come back up to another downloadable game here, I'm going to go to Alan Wake. You can see this one also has restore license. And again, if we go into information, it does not state any sort of expiration date. And that is across the board. So here's another digital game that I purchased, and right there is a restore license. So at least that gives you a feel of what it's like over here on a PlayStation 5 run in 13.20 with all of the latest and greatest updates. Anyways, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already and subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you on the next one. Michael, out.